Hello guys, welcome to my channel. In previous video we discussed about the reproduction and asexual reproduction. And today we will discuss about the sexual reproduction. Now what is sexual reproduction? Sexual reproduction involves formation of the male and female gametes either by the same individual or different individual of the opposite sex. That means when two gametes, that is male gametes and female gametes, come contact to each other and they form zygote, and the zygote develops to form a new individuals or offsprings. The gametes fuses to form the zygote which develops to form the new organisms. Sexual reproduction is an elaborate, complex or slow process as compared to asexual reproduction. In case of asexual reproduction, there is no formation of gametes. That's why the asexual reproduction is faster than the sexual reproduction. As in sexual reproduction, there the male gametes and female gametes fuses and zygote forms, the zygote develops, and many other processes. That's why the sexual reproduction is a slow process. It is an elaborate, complex and slow process compared to the asexual reproduction because of the fusion of male and female gametes. Sexual reproduction results in the offsprings that are not identical to the parents or amongst themselves. That means the organisms or offsprings that reproduce through the sexual reproductions, the offsprings are not similar or not identical to their parents or amongst themselves. Why that occurs? That occurs because the gametes, it comes from mother or the father, they are not similar. That's why they are also not identical. All organisms have to each reach a certain period of growth and maturity in their life before they can reproduce sexually. That means an organisms, when it capable to reproduce, before it is capable of reproduce or reproductions, it must be grow up and mature enough. The period of growth is divided by two types, that is juvenile phase and reproductive phase. What is juvenile phase? The period of growth is known as juvenile phase. That means when an individual can capable of reproduction, before the reproduction it have to mature and grow up, and the period when the organisms mature enough to reproduce, this period of time is known as juvenile phase, and the other phase is reproductive phase. The end of juvenile phase, here in plants it is known as vegetative phase. That means in plants it is known as vegetative phase, and in case of animals it is known as juvenile phase. And reproductive phase, the end of juvenile phase or vegetative phase, which marks the beginning of reproductive phase. That means when an organisms over the juvenile phase and it become ready to reproduce, this period is known as reproductive phase. Reproductive phase, it can be seen easily in higher plants when they come to flower. Now the events in sexual reproduction, that means what happened during sexual reproduction. After attainment of maturity, all sexually reproducing organisms exhibited some events through elaborate and complex medium. That means when organisms mature enough to reproduce, it shows some events. The sexual reproduction is characterized by the fusion or fertilization of the male and female gametes, the formation of zygote and embryogenesis. For convenience, these sequential events may be grouped into three distinct stages as pre-fertilization, fertilization and post-fertilization. Now what is pre-fertilization? Pre-fertilization include all the events that happened before the fertilizations. And what is fertilization? Fertilization is the process where male gamete and female gametes fuses to each other and form zygote. And what is post-fertilization? Post-fertilization include the events that occurred after the zygote formation or after the fertilizations. Now, pre-fertilization. These include all the events of sexual reproductions prior to the fusion of gametes. That's mean gamete formation के पहले जो events होता है वही pre-fertilization. The main pre-fertilization events are gametogenesis and gamete transfer. What is gametogenesis? Gametogenesis refers to the process to formation of the two types of gametes, male and female gametes. That means gametogenesis refers to the process of gamete formation, that is male gametes and female gametes. Gametes are always haploid type. When this haploid type of two haploid gametes fuses to each other, they become diploid, and the diploid cells are known as zygote. Gametes are two types, that is homogametes and heterogametes. What is homogametes? In some algae, the two gametes are similar to appearance that it is not possible to categorize them into male and female gametes. That means in some algae, the two gametes, that is male gametes or female gametes, are morphologically alike or similar, that is cannot be separated from each other. These type of gametes are known as homogametes. They are called hence homogametes or isogametes. What is heterogametes? In a majority of sexually reproducing organisms, the gametes produced are morphologically distinct and two types is known as heterogenesis. That means in majority of sexually reproducing organisms, the gametes are two types, that is male gametes and female gametes. These two types of gametes are known as heterogenesis. Hetero means different and homo means similar. Male gametes are called sperm or antherozoid and female gametes are called ovum or eggs. Sperm or antherozoids are always motile and ovums are stationary. Stationary means they cannot move. Now, gamete transfer. After the formation of gametes, the male and female gametes are brought together to facilitate fusions. That means when the gametes are formed, the male gametes and female gametes are come to each other and they fuses, and this process is known as fertilization. Except some fungi and algae, majority of the organisms, the male gametes is motile and female gametes is stationary. That means except some fungi and algae, the male gametes can move and the female gametes can't be moved. But in case of fungi and algae, the male and female, both gametes can move. Through a medium, the male gametes move towards the female gametes and race to the female gametes. In several female gametes like algae, bryophytes and pteridophytes, water is a medium through which gamete transfer takes place. That means in several female gametes like algae and bryophytes, they are moved through the water medium. Gametes can be transferred through different medium like water, air, etc. Now, fertilization. Fertilization. The most vital event of the sexual reproduction, is the fusion of gametes. The process called syngamy results in the formation of diploid zygote known as fertilization. That means when a male gametes and female gametes fuses to each other and they form zygote. This process is known as fertilization. Fertilization is two types, that is internal fertilization and external fertilization. Internal fertilization occurs inside the female body. That means in case of internal fertilizations, the ovum is produced inside the female body and the sperm enter into the female body and it fuses to fertilize. The example of internal fertilizations are birds, mammals, etc. And in case of external fertilization occurs outside the female body like bony fishes, frog, some algae, etc. In case of external fertilizations, the females lay their egg outside the body and the sperm came contact with the eggs and fertilization occurs. That's post-fertilizations. Events of sexual reproduction after the formation of zygote is known as post-fertilizations. That means the events that occurs after the fertilizations or the zygote formation is known as post-fertilizations. The events of post-fertilizations are the zygote and the embryogenesis. Now about the zygote. Formation of the diploid zygote is universal in all sexually reproducing organisms. That means diploid zygotes occurred in majority of the organisms. Zygote is the vital link that ensure continuity of the species between organisms of on generations and the next generation. That means zygote carries some characters of the generation that can be linked to generation. Development of the zygotes depends on the life cycle of the organisms and the environment it exposed. That means development of zygote, it depends on the life cycle of organisms, how the organism lives or the other, and the environment it is, and environment also depend how the zygote is grow up. In organisms with external fertilization, zygote is formed in the external medium, usually water, whereas those exhibiting internal fertilization, zygote is formed outside the body. That means in case of internal fertilization, zygote formed in the external outside of the body, and in the internal fertilization, zygote is formed inside the body. Sorry, it is inside the body. And the embryogenesis. Embryogenesis refers to the process of development of embryo from the zygote. That means when a zygote developed and from the zygote the embryo developed. This is known as embryogenesis. During embryogenesis, zygote undergoes cell divisions and cell differentiation. In cell division, increase the number of cells in the developing embryo, that is cell number increases, and cell differentiation helps to undergo certain modification to form specialist tissue and organs to form one organisms. Now based on the development of zygote inside or outside the body, outside the female body, animals are categorized into oviporous and viviporous. What is oviporous? Oviporous means the organisms which lay eggs, and viviporous means the organisms which give birth direct birth, don't produce eggs. In oviporous animals like reptiles and birds, the fertilized eggs covered by hard calcareous shell are laid in a safe place in the environment. After the incubation of young ones hatch out. That means in oviporous animals, the female lay eggs outside the body and it incubated and the young ones hatch out. And in viviporous animals, that is mammals including human beings, the zygote develops inside the female body. After attaining a certain stage of growth, the young ones are delivered out of the body. That means in case of viviporous animals, the eggs remain inside the body of female, and the gametes come contact with the eggs with a certain mode or medium, and the zygote form, and after certain stages or certain period of time, the young ones are delivered out of the body. Now it is the schematic diagram of sexual reproduction. So it is a adult male and it is a adult female. The male gives sperms or the gametes, and here the ovum is the female gametes, the male gametes sperm and the female gametes ovum. They are fuses to each other and form zygote, and after a certain period of time zygote developed and offspring, new offspring produce.